This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Extrema Ceramcore Cookware. This is the number one product that we are moving all of our cooking appliances to, is this non-toxic, chemical-free, clay-based, heavy metal-free, doesn't leach, completely organic cookware that doesn't leach any heavy metals or toxicities or chemicals or poisons or anything into your food. Extrema Ceramcore Cookware. We love this stuff. So if you guys are interested in upgrading all of your cooking pots and pans that you use on high heat to make your teas and your food and all of that good stuff, go to extremehealthradio.com/490. And we're also brought to you by Barf World Raw Dog Food. This is the number one diet that we feed Maggie and Charlie. They thrive on this stuff. It is absolutely powerful. It is amazing. It is raw dog food, and it's uncooked, unprocessed, and it contains the bone marrow as well as the bone, as well as the organ meats, as well as the muscle meat. And if you know anything about that, that includes all the great and perfect minerals and acid alkaline balance. It's proper for your dog. It's what they would eat in the wild. And once you do this, your dog is going to be happy. Their coat is going to shine. They're going to have abundant energy. They're going to lose weight. They're going to feel good. They're going to feel amazing. We love this stuff. And this is what we give to our dogs, and we absolutely love it. And once you give it to your dogs, they're going to crave it and they're going to eat it up so fast. I would imagine that's what our dogs do. They just love this stuff. That's called the Barf World Raw Pet Food. That'll be available at extremehealthradio.com/490. And both of these products are available in our store with many other amazing products there as well. Well, this is going to be a great show because I am really excited about talking with Marcus from trulyheal.com. We're going to be talking about ozone, how to apply ozone into your life, what it can be used for, all the different ailments that the body goes through where we can apply ozone in different areas to heal. And Marcus's website is called trulyheal.com, which is really cool because what it does is it gives people the power in their own life to heal. And I think that's really, when you start taking control of your life, of your body, of your health, of your finances, of your relationships, of your spiritual life, that's really where we have, let's see, how do I say this? That's really where we have the most potential to have the biggest impact in the world, is when we can take control of our life, right? So this is going to be a great show. We're going to be talking about ozone. Marcus Freudenmann, and his website is trulyheal.com. He's the producer of the documentary Truly Heal Your Body, Your Life, and the World from Cancer. And he's the author of the workbook that goes with the movie. He's also the director of the EQ Academy and the Truly Heal Academy that he has over at trulyheal.com. And he's been at this for about 10 years, working with experts all around the world. If you go to his YouTube channel, he's been working with people all over the world and really brings in a lot of really interesting components into his protocols. And this is going to be great because he talks about PEMF, talks about ozone. He's got a bunch of different items for healthcare practitioners. If you're a healthcare practitioner, he's got apps and all kinds of really interesting ways to help empower people. So this is going to be really great. Thank you, Marcus, for being on the show today. Whoops. Let's see. I think we're having a little technical snafu here. Marcus, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Oh, my goodness. Let me turn down the music. We're having a little issue with our our soundboard, but everything is well now. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. You know, this has been great because you and I have been going back and forth for, gosh, what seems like a couple years now, going back and forth.
I know.
But I love your work, and I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah. Well, I listened to a lot of your radio show in the meantime, so I'm well familiar with your style too.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we were just talking before the show about the work that you do at Truly Heal and talking about ozone. And recently you just put out about 3 new videos on your YouTube channel on ozone. And if you're listening to this, I'd recommend subscribing to Marcus's YouTube channel so you can get updates. You put out some really cool stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I saw YouTube for a long time just purely as a hosting site until I realized that we have over 3.5 million views. and a lot of subscribers. So I actually realized that's a channel on its own.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. So you've been doing, I was looking through your YouTube channel. You've been at YouTube for about 6 years now.
Yeah. Well, a passion like that is something that is very, very big. We were before with different hosts, and we have all our videos on many different video hosting sites. So it's a total reach that we have, which is really, really big. And I enjoy making videos because I feel they explain so much more than just purely doing written text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's nice for people to have some video, just to go through. I think our culture is so video oriented these days, and that's what's so cool is that you're teaching people how to essentially take care of their own health and to adopt some of these really cool protocols that you're doing. You're doing stuff with PEMF, you're doing stuff with Ozone, you have all kinds of ways. And this is what's really cool is I'm looking through some of your videos I was watching, and you're teaching people how to use the generators, and it's really just a crash course on all this stuff related to ozone lately.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I realized that as soon as we have clients, there is not a lot of very conscious doctors. Well, let's say there are, but it's very hard to find them. It's very hard to reach them. They don't offer all treatments to all patients just because they're too scared. Mm-hmm. And that's why educating the public and showcasing how they can do a lot at home and support any other doctor treatment, it just makes a lot more sense. And we've noticed that, if I make a workshop, no matter where in England, we have always full house booked, and people come to really learn how to do things. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more practically oriented.
Now, when you do workshops, you travel around the world and do workshops?
Yeah. So I just come back from London and all of UK. We went all the way up to Scotland. And is that you?
No, I don't think that's on my end. That's okay. It'll go away.
And yeah, so England was really fascinating. And then we are traveling in March, April, May, all through America and Canada. And then afterwards, we're heading towards Australia and New Zealand. So that's the main countries that we visit.
Wow. Are you originally from South Africa?
No, Germany.
Germany. You sound a little bit South African to me, but so you're living. Yeah. You're living in.
I've lived all over the world.
Now you're in Australia, right?
Yes.
Wow. So whereabouts in America are you going to go?
We start out in Texas, and then we go to Florida, New York, Chicago, Denver, San Diego, San Francisco, Vancouver. That's pretty much the tour.
Oh my goodness! If you are in San Diego, are you going to be flying from San Diego to San Francisco?
No, we have an RV.
You know what?
This is my two month tour. We travel with an RV, and we stay in beautiful areas, like in national parks and beautiful retreats to do the workshops. It's always weekend workshops.
Oh, that's great.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we really train everything, and we have a lot of components in our program, from stress relief to dealing with inflammation, dealing with infections, dealing with immune weaknesses and deficiencies. So it's covering a lot of ground, and we have practitioners and advanced patients, everything together. So it's real fun.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Wow. So when people are attending your events and they're learning from your lectures and things, are you finding that a lot of people that attend the events are very sick, or are they typically people that are well, but they want to make sure they stay well?
Both. We have a little bit of a filter system, so we don't allow everybody to come, because in the beginning, I never forget my cancer patient, and during the workshop, he was sitting there, and then he nipped sideways and more sideways, and then we called for help, and he passed away during the workshop. So goodness. Final stage, and that was so scary. It was overwhelming during that, and it was right on the first day. So I became very careful. We look for people that either really have that drive and that energy to help themselves, or we invite caregivers, caretakers, family members, parents, whoever is in charge and helps to get through the process, rather than a patient who is already overwhelmed by their disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a challenge for people, isn't it? Because I know you've seen this probably, and so have I. When you have people that are, basically living, a regular existence, eating a standard diet, and they're sick, and they're 70, 80, or maybe 60, 70, 80, and then they get some kind of diagnosis, and they just become so overwhelmed with all of this information. And so it's really a challenge, isn't it, to work with people like that, because you're trying to infuse, a lifetime of work and education into someone in a matter of a few weeks. It's challenging.
Yeah, and we all know that is not a fast learning process.
No.
It took me forever to really get into the understanding. And yes, it's nice you can convey a lot, but the learning process still needs to be experienced, and that's why we really appreciate people who have a passion for health, who have a thrive for health, who already learned a lot. Like, we have a lot of cancer patients in our coaching program. We offer an education program for health coaches and for health practitioners. It's a functional medicine training. And if they have already overcome, or they've experienced a lot already, and then they learn how to put it all together, it really makes a huge difference for the patient, and they have like that big benefit from it. But if you're starting out very fresh, it's a long learning curve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that a lot, and I'm sure you have too. It's really challenging for people, and that's why I think it's so great with the education that you're putting out, and shows like this. I know you've done a lot of podcasts on other people's shows. I'm glad that education is getting out there more, and I'm glad that people are able to get access to stuff while they are healthy, because in my mind, if you can really take care of yourself and educate yourself along the journey of your life, and if something ever does, God forbid, happen, you have the education, you have the background, you have the knowledge. And I think a lot of people these days are waking up. A lot of people are understanding that there's real issues with the conventional medicine.
Yeah.
Just
well,
to put
the
it
big
lightly.
problem is usually, and I think I'm speaking out of my own experience as well, we only start to wake up when it hurts.
Yeah.
There is some kind of a resistance to change lifestyle habits before you hit the brick wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, right? I mean, people just kind of float along their lives, and they think their body and their health is always going to be the same until it's not, so it's
Exactly.
really challenging. So, Marcus, what got you into doing this? Because you've been doing this for 10 years or more. What was the catalyst that got you?
15 years ago, a friend of mine was diagnosed with cancer. And that was like a big kickstart. My wife is a naturopath, so she was dealing with a lot of patients beforehand, and we raised our children in that style. So it was all around us. But then a friend of ours was diagnosed, and we knew that she had a very impaired DNA result. So she couldn't detoxify. She couldn't deal with any kind of chemical substances. And when she went to the clinic, the doctor recommended chemotherapy in the first week. Mm-hmm. And we said, look, this is the DNA result. This is the pharmacogenomic test, where you can test whether the person can actually deal with the pharmaceutical drugs. And it indicates that she will not be able to. And I was kicked out of hospital. I was getting into a fight with the doctor. And then he forced chemotherapy on her, and she died after the second treatment. And that was just a kickstart for me that put everything in motion. I'm an architect, and I was working very successfully in a completely different world, and it just kickstarted my passion. And I think that's where we then started to interview many doctors. We started out with MAXawareness and created hundreds of videos and educational videos to showcase to the world what can be done and how you can avoid all of those problems.
Wow. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that for a lot of people, it's the cancer. It seems like cancer is, you have a whole protocol and cancer program, and as well as a documentary, but it's just interesting how cancer is the big word these days. It's the dreaded word. It's the word that everybody fears. It's what got me into health as well. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma back in 95. And at that time I didn't know anything, and I didn't even really wake up until 2003. and started getting into all this stuff. But it's just interesting how cancer seems to be the catalyst that gets people into this natural health stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. You can be diagnosed with heart diseases, with all sorts of things, and they never trigger the same response as cancer does, and ALS. But yeah, it's something that we just need to use as a momentum, because if with every second person getting diagnosed in their lifetime, it certainly is a movement that changes the world, and that makes us all aware of what we're facing.
So you were saying before the show that your passion is lately. I'm sure you're like me, and you go through different subject matters you get passionate about for a certain amount of time. But lately, it's been ozone and using ozone effectively for a host of different treatments on people. So what have you been learning about ozone, and what is it? And let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, let's say it that way. What we found is when you talk about cancer, there is a lot of cures. And in the beginning, they seem to be all very fascinating. Marijuana cures cancer, dandelion cures cancer. It's like those many, many different protocols that you get. And after 15 years, you realize that all my friends did all those protocols and nothing really worked. And if it works, only for a short time. And whether that's a virus that they use to kill the cancer, whether that's GCMAF, it always has a very short-term response. And then the body, and we always say cancer is extremely clever in being a survival genius. Cancer, no matter what you throw at it, whether it's chemotherapy or natural remedies, it always comes back and it survives every challenge. And therefore, none of those treatments really worked. And I guess about 6 years ago or 8 years ago, our big transformation happened when I did an interview with Dr. Thomas Rau in Switzerland. And he said, Marcus, you're asking all the wrong questions. Treatments are not important. And I was like, that's
bizarre, right?
After almost 10 years of going in the same direction, it was like a huge wake-up call. And he shook me. He really said, no, if you don't ask different questions, I'm not continuing the interview with you.
My goodness. Interesting.
And I was like, I said, can you tell me what I should ask? And he said, Marcus, there is a reason that you're sick. And the only real question that we need to find out is, how do you find what's wrong? What drives cancer? What promotes cancer? What is the driving factor behind the disease? And once we find that and we remove that, if we remove the cause, then the body heals. So let's talk about all the causes. And during the interview, I was a little bit rattled and shaken and back and forth. But it took me to a place where I really started to look at disease very differently. And that's what we find with functional medicine. It's a completely different approach. You ignore the cancer. You ignore whether it's ALS or depression or anxiety or any of the skin eczemas. Anything is not relevant because that's only the symptom of the body to express its discomfort, dis-ease with what's happening internally and externally in the milieu. And changing that milieu, bringing it back into a really beautiful equilibrium, and then the body heals. And it's incredible speeds. And after my interview, we have a lot of clinics and doctors where I send patients. And every time I send someone to Dr. Rao, they came back to me, they sent me Christmas gifts, they sent me beautiful letters and cards, and I'm in contact with most of them now, 10 years, 8 years.
Wow.
7 years ago was the interview. And they are all doing well. A friend of mine just came by, I think 3 days ago, completely cleared. Secondary stage. So she had reoccurring ovarian cancer, lung cancer, and liver cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was all spread through the body. She had 6 tumors, baseball size, in her body when I sent her. And Dr. Rao said, Marcus, I'm not certain whether she's going to survive the flight. Once she's here, we can do a lot. But to get her here, she might not survive. And she's cleared, completely cleared. And it shows to me that this approach is really the thing that I am keen to promote. And that's why I came to different conclusions in my treatment approach. We do not treat the disease, like this kills cancer, this kills cancer. It's more like, what does clean our system? And when you think of it, we're 90 or 80%, 86 or 83% water.
Uh-huh.
Now, have you ever seen how an aquarium, a fish aquarium, is cleaned with ozone?
Yeah, most of them, right?
Yeah. If you use ozone in a swimming pool or in an aquarium, within a very, very short time, even deceased fish, algae, green stuff, bacteria, everything is eliminated and transformed into high levels of oxygen. And that makes everything thrive in that aquarium. And that was, for me, like the most logical conclusion. Instead of putting more poison into the body and putting more medication into the body and adding, we just filter everything out. And the principle of ozone is so powerful, with over 7,000 medical research studies, 3,000 papers alone in Germany proving that fact, that you can change the inner milieu of the body very, very fast. And that was just like one of the kick-starting elements that really changes every healing journey in the fastest way.
That is interesting. Now, ozone is what, an oxygen molecule with three. What's attached to the oxygen molecule? It's got a third component to it.
It's O3.
O3.
It's just, you take O2, oxygen, and then you split it with high energy, which is in nature lightning, thunderstorm. Okay. So when you have lightning outdoors, it will split one O molecule, which is a singlet oxygen. And you've probably heard about singlet oxygen. It's extremely powerful, highly energized oxygen, and that attaches to O2. And in that form of O3, it's extremely volatile, but it has that power to kill off pathogens. It has the power to kill off every diseased cell or unstable cell in your body and bring in or support the healthy cells.
Interesting. So it's an oxygen with it's O3, and so it's very, very, you got to work with it and be very careful with how you work with it. Is that right?
Look, take water, and you drink water in excess in a short time. You will have kidney failure. You will have a breakdown of your concentration in the blood, and it's deadly. Take too much oxygen, you breathe pure oxygen, and it becomes deadly. Anything you take in excess becomes deadly. And I think the biggest problem that we have with all of those statements or manipulation of information, in excess, it causes harm. If not enough, it causes harm too. And that's what we know from medicine in general. Would you like to hold for a second?
Sure.
We have a truck delivery right outside my door, and he's just leaving.
No problem.
That we don't have that noise. Can you cut out?
No. You mean, do you want us to pause it, or do you want? I can just talk for a bit until you come back.
Yeah. No, he's just driving away.
Okay. Excellent.
Because it's very noisy. I didn't know that he's coming now.
Yeah. No worries. We couldn't hear anything, so it was good.
So.
Yeah.
Back. So anything you take in excess is unhealthy. Anything you have not enough is unhealthy. And ozone is cleaning the air. It's killing microbes, pathogens, everything. So it's a very important. And statements of this nature are unjustified and fraudulent when they intend to misinform the public. And that's what's happening. They are all getting scared about ozone, whereas it's the most natural occurrence.
So you think that so people are making statements about ozone in a way that scares people, and then people are too afraid to try it? Is that what's going on?
Well, ozone has been it's the only treatment. Let's say you have open wounds, diabetic neuropathy, pressure ulcers. You have all sorts of diabetic problems, those dark open wounds and legs from diabetes. And that's something, there is no treatment worldwide. Any wound, if it's infected, they use antibiotics. And your bugs turn resistant within a week. So it doesn't work anymore. So they go through different forms of creams, but they can't heal those wounds. If you look at ozone, in a matter of a few days, the wound heals up, cleans out, the pus goes away. And in 3 or 4 weeks, the whole leg turns bright again because it transforms the viscosity of the blood. It energizes, it cleans it out, it kills all the bacteria, and it's a valid treatment in many countries, yet the TGA and FDA and all of them, they don't approve, not even human trials, even though there is over 7,000 research papers.
7,000?
It's too cheap.
It's too cheap, yeah.
Just simply a bottle of oxygen, which you get for $40, and you can use for 1,000 treatments, or I think 1,600 treatments. And that's just not a viable solution.
No way. So yeah, that's probably the reason behind it. It's just too cheap. And if people start using this kind of treatment, then, and they get better, then not only is it's too cheap for them to make a profit on, but then they're also losing out on potential, billions of dollars for, I bet you there's just hundreds and hundreds of different ways to use ozone too.
For so many different diseases. It's nothing but a very, very highly energized ozone oxygen treatment. So when you look at oxygen as a treatment, we know hyperbaric oxygen has a great effect, but it's not pathogens. It doesn't kill off bacteria, fungi, mold. It just activates your immune system. Now you add to hyperbaric oxygen that factor of killing pathogens and flagging your pathogens with heat shock proteins and killing cancer cells. It becomes too powerful of a treatment to be allowed in the public.
So if someone were interested in using ozone in their life, is it something that people should only use if they are sick, or can it be used in a maintenance way to prevent sickness?
Yeah. I don't have a specific disease except maybe a little bit of leaky gut. And I can tell you what, it has even 75 research studies proving that it heals leaky gut. So you can do many things with it. Just as a healthy person, you can use, if you have toenail fungus, which is usually an indication of any kind of gut problems or bacterial overload, Candida, Helicobacter pylori, anything can be treated. And as a healthy person, all you get is a massive immune boost.
That's so cool. How long does it take you to administer per day? And how often do you use it per week?
Well, the Cuba protocol, they always talk about protocols because they talk about diseases.
Okay.
If you use it as a Cuba protocol, it's in the morning after you've been to toilet, rectal insufflation, which is the easiest form. And that takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's just a very small quantity that you insert with a catheter into your rectum, and you blow like a big fart up your butt. And then you hold that for a little while, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And you increase volume and concentration over a period of 5 weeks. And afterwards they show, and there is so many biopsies done on the mucous membrane in the colon, how it heals leaky gut, how it repairs the nuclei of all the cells, how it repairs tight junctions. Tight junctions are the main problem, that undigested foods get into the bloodstream. So all the tight junctions are repaired by ozone. And again, proven studies showcasing with many different images. So it definitely works.
Wow. So you're saying that one treatment has the effect of 5, or can have an effect for up to 5 weeks?
No. 5 weeks. You do that every day in the morning. It's a 3-4 minute treatment, and you do that every day, 5 days a week. And then you have the next 5 days, and you always do a particular concentration. So let's say you start out with a very low concentration, low volume. You do that for 5 days. Then you have 2 days off. And then you do the treatment with a slightly higher volume and a slightly higher concentration of ozone. and you do that for 5 days. And so it's a 4-week or 5-week protocol in total to repair leaky gut. It's a 4-week protocol to reverse Helicobacter pylori, hepatitis C. It doesn't matter what you take. Diabetic gangrene and neuropathy, all of those things are always based on a 4 or 5 week protocol.
That's interesting. And so these protocols, so, what's awesome about this too is a lot of people don't realize that when you're working on one condition, say like you're working on like some kind of fungus or something, new research and studies are showing that there's a definite connection. We're not sure if it's an actual cause, but there's a definite connection between cancer and fungus and candida and yeast infections and all these types of things. So what's cool is that you're fixing one problem, but you're fixing, down the line, you're fixing a ton of other potential problems or problems as well, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, I never forget during the interview time when I spoke with Charlotte Gerson, she said, you cannot heal selectively.
Oh, right.
When you heal, the whole body heals. And that's the principle. When you remove causes, let's say you have infectious problems, you have bacteria overload, candida overload, you have any kind of pathogenic bacteria in your gut, and you remove that. In some people, eczema goes away, depression goes away, their whole body starts to flare up with life and energy. So it's not just one thing. As soon as you remove the problem, it's like the whole body feels so much more energized and better. Plus, your whole absorption rate changes. So healing the gut is always the first step, and that's where ozone is so powerful. But then it has many different attributes like killing pathogens, making the blood more energized. One of the factors that I found very exciting is, have you ever seen that image when a white blood cell under a dark field microscope moves and it goes through the red blood cells and it touches all the red blood cells to clean up in between?
No, I haven't seen that. I've seen images on YouTube showing, like cannabis, or is it cannabis? No, I think it was white blood cells killing cancer cells, but I haven't seen that one that you're referring to.
Okay, so I'll send you a link, but it's really beautiful. You can see that white blood cells swim like little snails in amongst those red blood cells. Now, the red blood cells take up in your lungs all the oxygen, and that's why they provide by touching. So when those little snails go in between the red blood cells, they take up the oxygen from the red blood cells. And when they need to kill bacteria, cancer cell, a destroyed cell, if they need to catch something or kill it, they need 100 times more oxygen, which means it's called the respiratory burst. And if they don't have that, if your red blood cells, the hemoglobin doesn't carry enough oxygen, they can't do the job. Now, as soon as you introduce rectal ozone into your system, it's like a systemic oxygen boost. You have singlet, high energized oxygen. And as those little white blood cells travel then through the blood, they can take that up and have all the power to deal with. And that's why in Europe, they use ozone bubbles, and they inject with the needle little bubbles of ozone around a tumor so that the white blood cells, the immune cells, can actually catch it, take it up, and then take it into the tumor. And they get a perforation and infestation of white blood cells by tenfold when they do that.
Wow, that is so fascinating. How long have people been using ozone?
50 years, 60 years. Research studies go back to 1907, I think. So it's definitely a very, very old treatment.
Yeah, what a powerful thing. So now when you're using ozone, you're doing like a 5-week protocol, and then do you take any time off in between maybe starting another protocol, or how do you do it?
It depends on what you want to achieve. I have just started because it was all one big vast thing. I recorded an ozone summit and interviewed the top leading experts in ozone treatments from all around the world. And I was like, everybody has their own little protocol, their own variations, but it turned out into something that was addressing too many different diseases. There is infertility you can actually treat infertility with ozone because it breaks down plastic toxicity, kills off all the pathogens and bacteria in the fallopian tubes, and cleans out the fertility, the eggs. So it's fascinating in so many areas that we've broken it up. And I'm creating at the moment training videos for wound healing, for cancer, how to use it with cancer, for different types of cancer, how to use it for infectious diseases, hepatitis C, AIDS, HIV, ALS, Lyme disease. And then we have a complete different program for fertility and pregnancy preparation. Because, you know, if you look for wound healing, you don't want to know about potency of males by injecting it into the testicles.
Right. Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that. Oh, interesting. Wow. So it's so fascinating how there's so many different applications and uses for something like this. I mean, it makes total sense because really, you know,
oxygen is life.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of, I mean, diseases aren't all that different. I mean, they are in a sense, but they all kind of have a handful of causes, right?
It's the causes, like you said, is really infections, very, very bad, because any kind of infection, whether it's yeast, mold, bacteria, fungi, viral infection, they suppress our immune system. Now, if that's not dealt with and we can't get rid of the infection, they keep the immune system occupied. And think about, you have 50 soldiers and you have 10 wars at the same time, then they're overwhelmed. And that's why they can't deal with cancer cells, they can't deal with something else, because they need to deal with the imminent threat. And that's why infections is always one of the first things that we look at. Mm-hmm. The second thing is deficiencies, where ozone helps with nutrient uptake. So it's very effective in that concern. And then we have the heavy metal toxicity, which is a real problem, and plastic toxicity. They are more or less the three main problems that we need to address in the very first stage. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we get each of them down and we reduce the problems there, then the body starts reversing any disease and starts to heal.
What are your thoughts about people doing like bubbled ozone through olive oil and things like that? I know there's products out there like that. We support a great woman, Nadine Artemis from Living Libations, and she's got ozonated olive oil. What are your thoughts about things like that?
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
They are really helpful. You can use them for anything, any kind of inflammation, infection. Topically, all treatments help extremely fast, but let's just face it again. Where do pimples and infections and wounds and neuropathy and all of that come from? It's not an external bug that we have. The internal lining of our gut is actually expressed in our skin, in our external lining. So by treating external issues, yes, I can heal wounds, I can have a big effect, but I still need to address the inner issue that actually causes that. Mm. You know, we just had a lady, she had very serious fungi problem in her toes, and it was nothing but a severe gluten and dairy sensitivity. Mm. Now you reduce that and you reduce her sugar intake, and all of a sudden the fungus in her toes went away and toenail bed. And yes, you can treat that externally to help the healing process, but if she would stay on the same style diet and she wouldn't get rid of those things, it would always be a battle, you know, two forces against each other. I can use ozone cream, but the body becomes resistant.
Yeah.
Now we've created, I bought 20 different oils, and the big problem is as soon as they warm up, above 26 degrees, 25 degrees, the ozone is gone. You know, like it really evaporates very fast. They don't have a lot of shelf life.
Oh, so they have to be kept cold.
One company that we've been working with in Germany, they produce their ozone oil differently. They use it while having PMF, you know, pulse electromagnetic rings around the boiling chamber, and then they warm it up and cool it down and warm it up and cool it down, and they at the same time with PMF, and they have extreme high concentration, and it stays a paste, a solid thick paste. When you put it under the microscope and you look at the bubble content, it's probably about 20 times more than any other ozone oil. And for beauty, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to have severe therapeutic effects with open cancers and stuff like that, you really need that quality. And the medical creams and the medical oils, they are a little bit more powerful because of that extreme high concentration.
Now, you have one of your recent videos as of this recording is Ozone and Wound Healing Introduction 4, and people can look at your YouTube channel for that, Ozone Wound Healing. And I'm curious, you just mentioned external issues, and I knew a guy a while back, he died, but he had really, really large cancers, skin cancers, growths on his skin and things. If people have skin cancer, are there ways to use ozone topically, externally on growths and things like that for that?
Think about a skin cancer like a mushroom in a forest under a tree.
Uh-huh.
Now you take that mushroom and pull it out, whether with black self or with ozone or with anything. There is Cansema. It's like pulling that one mushroom out. What will happen the next day, the next week?
Well, they come back because they're essentially like the fruiting bodies of those mushrooms, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which means if you cut off a few branches so that the sunshine gets through, you change the milieu in the ground, you hack it up, get some oxygen into it, and you add some minerals into it, and all of a sudden they don't grow anymore. And that's the big problem that I see in that whole cancer, whether it's conventional or alternative industry, as I say. It's we don't look at the milieu enough to make that change. The Tony Berry, who made the movie One Cure for Cancer, where he showed how beautiful Cansema works. Yes, it does, and it pulls out big tumors. But they keep growing back until we change the milieu. And that's where changing diet, changing lifestyle, changing stress, changing that milieu of the body, getting rid of pathogens makes a lasting difference. And that's what we found. It's that external treatment is always cool. And you realize I'm very adamant with that. But it's not giving you a lasting result or solution. And if you do the internal milieu cleanup and all of a sudden, it's not only cancer that goes away, everything else, and you have triple the energy, you move completely different, and you enjoy life 10 times more.
That's so true. Now, what other conditions have you done and found in your research that we haven't mentioned on today's show? What other conditions does this work for?
Well, I think the most prominent of all is, and where we have most research, is all the viral diseases, whether that's AIDS or hepatitis C, ALS, Lyme disease. There is a lot of research. But again, I interviewed Dr. Maria Emilia Hernandez from Cuba. And she said, Marcus, go away from treating the bacteria and killing the bacteria. That's not working because you kill 80%. And if you don't change the milieu, overnight they replicate and they are all back. So it's by changing the milieu. It's like you taking all the bacteria out of your pool, but don't change the pH. And overnight, they're all back. So you need to change the milieu in order to heal those diseases. And that's, for all of those diseases, very, very significant. As soon as you use like rectal or autohemotherapy or the minor autohemotherapy, they are most effective for all of those viral diseases. Then wounds, diabetes, diabetic gangrene, ulcers, pressure ulcers. It's very potent for liver and liver detoxification, because when you do a rectal ozone, you have that blood flow. It's one big pipe going from your whole gut directly into the liver where it's cleaned. Now, if you put ozone in your colon and it's absorbed through the mucous membrane and it flushes into the liver, it activates so many chemical reactions that help break down toxicity, help break down undigested fats. It's like the whole process of your liver is stimulated manifold.
Wow. Now, is rectal insufflation the main delivery system, or are there other ways of getting ozone that work as well?
Ozone has more or less external, the treatment bag. Well, first of all, you make ozone water and wash off your wounds. That's just to get all the bacteria and fungi at the surface away. Then you put your limb or whatever it is, or wound, into a bag or into a glass suction cup, and you gas directly a 40 milligram per liter concentration of ozone directly onto the wound, which oxygenates, and it kills on contact all bacteria, fungi, mold, whatever. So it's cleaning the wound from inside out. And then you dress it with ozone oil, and that would then be sealing it, and on the second side, supporting your immune system with oxygen to do the trick. And then you add rectal insufflation as a systemic treatment to really repair the gut, to get an immune boost to your system and activate your white blood cells. When you look at before and after white blood cells of ozone insufflation, it's just like a huge explosion. They become triple as active.
Really?
And because it creates more white blood cells in the bone marrow, because it's directly affecting the bone marrow to produce more white blood cells, you can increase the white blood cell count.
Wow, that's so
fascinating. And if you don't want to use rectal ozone, then you use with a doctor, and some doctors do 3 times a week, autohemotherapy, major autohemotherapy, which means they take from your vein on your arm, they take blood out. They wash that blood with ozone, they swill it, and it gets from dark red into a bright orange red, very powerful, and then they drip that back in. But it requires big gauge needles, and that's not very pleasant 3 times a week.
No. So,
but the effects are equal then 5 times rectal ozone, and there is no needle involved, so I prefer that one.
Wow. So now with the ozonated olive oil, can you teach people how to create that themselves, or is that a product they would probably just buy, or how does that work?
I've tried probably about 20 batches with 5 oxygen generators, ozone generators at the same time bubbling into the oil. And I never ever got even close to what they can do with those commercial big machines. It's just the penetration of ozone oil. Yes, it's fun to do, and we've made several ourselves. They smell a lot more like ozone than they have the effect.
Okay.
Especially when you look under the microscope and you look at the bubble concentration. It's fun, but I would go for commercially produced, high concentrated ozone oil all the time, because it's more effective.
Now, are you at liberty to let us and the listeners know about the company in Germany that sells that high grade olive oil that's ozonated?
Yeah, we have it at the moment in our shop. I just got a delivery of 200 jars. And it's Humasona that produces it. It's they do commercial ozone devices for large clinics. So their main business is to produce those ozone devices for commercial clinics, and they have a separate department just started up with that ozone oil because they supply that to all the German clinics.
That's interesting. So are there issues that people should look out for when doing ozone? Are there people who have conditions where they may be too weak to take ozone, or are there people who have gone too far? What's your experience with people who, ozone may not be a good thing for them, or is it just good for everybody?
It's good for everybody.
I think so.
Side effects. 5.68 million treatments in Germany per year.
Whoa.
With a 4 zeros behind the comma, 0.407 accident rate. And the accident rate, when you look at the studies, they are only by needles. So punctured veins, they cause bruising. They put the needle through the vein. They caused injuries on the hand when they tried to get the needle in. It was never the ozone. So when you look at that risk factor, it's actually the safest treatment, the safest medical treatment in the world.
Oh my
the
God.
only thing we have observed is with very sick patients is that they have, when they do rectal ozone, you start out with a very low concentration, you slightly go up, and we have the whole protocol on our website.
Uh-huh.
So as they slowly go up in protocol, then sometimes they have a lot of mucus coming out, and it's like a slime, a white slime, and that's the discharge, the toxic discharge of your mucous membrane can be accelerated. Mm-hmm. And that, for some, it was scary. They said, oh, it feels really awkward. But it's a cleansing process. It's a cleaning process. And if you have very, very high bacteria load and you do too high concentration, you can have a bit of a nauseating, that Herxheimer reaction, because too many bacteria die off at once, and that's just too tough for the system. But if you follow the protocol, if you do it like they do in Cuba or in Switzerland or in Austria, and you go through with very low concentration, very low volume, you do that for 5 days, then you go to the next and to the next and to the next concentration, you don't have those problems. And whether we treat 3-month-old babies, with celiac disease who have all sorts of problems, autistic children, you can use that with babies and toddlers and infants without any risk.
Now, how do you do a rectal insufflation with a child? I guess that would be kind of tricky, wouldn't it?
No. Well, for them, it's a lot easier. They hold the butt up and they don't have any kind of shame problems. It's a very thin female catheter. It's just about 4 or 5 mil thick. It's very soft. And you dip that before in a little bit of that ozone oil, that therapeutic ozone oil, so that it's lubricated. You fill an ozone bag with, I think for children, it's 40 milliliters. So it's very, very small. It's a tiny amount. And you insert that about 2 centimeters or 4 centimeters. You have 2 inches into the rectum. And then you squeeze that ozone out of the bag into the colon. So it's really super simple. Everybody can do it. I have elderly people, 80-year, 90-year-old people do the treatment. And if you get the letters that they are sending us, like, wow, first time I had, my whole system started to react, and leaky gut problems and mainly wound healing. That's where we started. It's just absolutely mind blowing.
Gosh, sounds like such a great protocol and, thing to introduce into your life, as a way of maintenance and a way of staying healthy, because, as you know, there's nowhere on planet Earth that you can go that you're not, exposed to toxins and chemicals and all this kind of pollution. So what a great thing.
It's the only thing that breaks down plastic toxicity in your body.
That's crazy.
If you have a rubber glove and you blow ozone against it, it dissolves. So when you have a toxicity in your system, plastic toxicity, bisphenol A and all of that, and you use ozone, it gently breaks it down bit by bit and out of your cells, which, you get rid of xenoestrogens and all sorts of things. It's a phenomenal treatment. They always ask me, Marcus, you're very excited about hypothermia. And yes, it is in our protocol and dealing with our coaching clients a foundation, because you sweat out a lot of toxins, and at the same time you boost your immune system and you flag your cancer cells with heat shock protein. So it's a triple or quadruple treatment. But it's tough. Nobody does it. They do it 2 or 3 times and then they go like, oh, do I have to? So you need a severe commitment to do that treatment. And when we have almost the same effects, almost the same results and long-term results with ozone, which is such an easy treatment and a lot cheaper than the hypothermia, and you can do it alone instead of being with a second person. It just makes so much sense. And like I said, we had the device developed ourselves. I was studying it for 6 years And I have several machines here up to 5,000 euros and disassembled all of them to study how they work and what they use. And then we had one built for ourselves because it's very tough for people to spend 4,000 euros or dollars for a proper ozone device. And so we managed to bring it down. I think it's $500. It doesn't have a lot of gadgets, like it doesn't have a lot of playful things on the device. But therefore, we've added the whole system. So you get syringes to do the initial start. You can do nasal treatments, ear infections. You can do the bagging. The bags are in there, the insufflation bags, 10 catheters, a bubble stone. You can do anything with it right from the start. And the package is $900. And before Christmas, we've even decided to add the oil for free to it. So you get a $120 ozone jar of oil free with your package. So it's complete and you can start right away.
So when someone purchases this, are they buying the big tank? Does that get delivered to their house and as well as a bunch of other equipment, or what actually shows up at the front door?
At the front door shows up the ozone generator and the super starter kit, which has everything in it that you need. We add book to it. We add a DVD to it. We add like the whole protocol to it. So it's like complete. And oxygen, you get industrial oxygen at any outlet. In America, there is in every city industrial oxygen, and that's 99.5% clean. And they guarantee 99.8% clean with medical oxygen, which doesn't really make a difference for us because we don't create nitrates. So you can use industrial oxygen. And I always say, I go to the shop in Australia, New Zealand, England, it's BOC. And you go there and say, I need oxygen for my fish. I do breed fish, and we introduce people how they get it. And then they buy a bottle, and I think it's $90 with unlimited refills per year in Australia. In America, it's something like $60 US to get an oxygen bottle, and you don't need more than 20 liters. And you have that for a whole year. You can refill it as many times. And one 20-liter bottle gives you probably about 1,000 treatments.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you how many treatments out of one bottle. Okay, so about 1,000 treatments?
Yeah, easy. You can do your whole family and the whole neighborhood.
That's amazing. So it's so interesting. So for $900, they can get everything they would need, and then they would have to buy the oxygen on an ongoing basis locally, somewhere locally.
Exactly. You can buy the bottles outright, but the rental agreement with $90 per year or $60 in America is really cheap. And we even supply the flow regulator and everything that they need for the bottle. It's all in the package. So it's complete. And when you think about it, it's under $1,000 US. You have a treatment that costs you in every clinic, just the bagging, you pay something like $180 for the treatment. Insufflation, they charge you $160. And you can do that as many times with your whole family, treat every disease. Do you know that there is even antibiotic-resistant bacteria that cannot be killed by anything? They die off on contact with ozone.
Yeah,
So
I was going to ask you about MRSA and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. There's a whole range. We have over 7,000 bacteria strains that are responsive to ozone.
7,000 bacteria strains that are responsive. So how responsive are they? A lot to ozone, or I guess each one would be different?
On contact. They die off on contact. Now, you don't touch all of them, and that's why we do not only the external, like the gas, we also do the internal to prime the immune system and to supply it. So it's always both sides. But yes, any kind of viral infection, bacterial infection, fungal infection, you can get rid of.
What about parasites? How does ozone affect parasites?
Some of them. There is not too much research on parasites. Certainly, they don't like an oxygenated environment. Mm-hmm. When you think about what Otto Warburg said, when you have an anaerobic lack of oxygen environment and you reduce oxygen, you have everything which is anaerobic growing, including your inflamed cells. They slowly get rid of the ability to produce ATP, their citric cycle is broken and they turn into fermentation, which is a cancer cell. They start to ferment because they have not enough oxygen available to create ATP. Mm-hmm. They still produce energy through fermentation. And that's where you have that big problem. As soon as you have a lack of oxygen in your system, you have that anaerobic environment which grows pathogenic, toxic bacteria, toxic parasites, all of that. So as soon as you start to oxygenate, they don't like that. They really don't survive in that milieu, and all of a sudden it regulates on its own. There is a beautiful study from Dr. Emilia, which she shows they had Helicobacter pylori and Klebsiella pseudomonas, like in the stool test, a lot of those toxic bacteria. And then they did 4 weeks of a 5-week protocol of rectal ozone only, nothing else. The patient was also drinking ozone water. Mm-hmm. So they were drinking just a cup in the morning and a cup in the evening and had rectal ozone 5 days a week for 5 weeks. And then they did the stool test again and everything was gone. Everything was balanced out. There was no treatment against certain things, Helicobacter pylori, Klebsiella, all was down, and the healthy bacteria were thriving. So it's phenomenal.
That's so fascinating. So now the ozone it's not doing any damage to any of the healthy cells, correct?
No, and this is, I think, one of the greatest advantages that we have. We have a chart on our website which shows the ozone actions. And there is actually a very powerful concept to that. A poorly oxygenated cell is good news for bacteria because they don't have that protective enzyme shield. If a cell is healthy and well and has enough oxygen, they produce superoxidase dismutase, SOD. They produce reductase and glutathione and catalase. Now, these are 4 very powerful enzymes that protect every healthy cell if they have enough oxygen. And an unhealthy cell, that protective shield goes down. So it's like the more unhealthy your system is, the more vulnerable you are for any kind of infection. And that's as soon as you introduce ozone, it produces all of those, or it activates that production of SOD and glutathione and catalase in your healthy cells. And all of a sudden, your whole immunity goes up and unhealthy cells are killed off. And it kills totally selectively. Everything which doesn't have that protective shield dies. And everything which has that protective shield thrives.
Well, that's a good thing, because if a poorly formed cell or a cell that's sick and dying, essentially you don't want that cell alive anyway, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, nothing is an immediate all cells die off, and all cells, when you think about how much you put up your colon, it's in the highest quantity, 300 milliliters, which are then absorbed through the mucous membrane, and the rest is farted back out. Mm-hmm. So it's not a lot. So you understand why it's a 4-week or 5-week treatment. It's a gradually improving the immune system, gradually killing off pathogens, gradually balancing your system, healing leaky gut, healing all your tight junctions. And as that happens more and more and more, your system gets more and more the upper hand. And I always see it as a seesaw. When you have your immune system primed and healthy and oxygenated, and you have your pathogenic load down, your body starts to feel wonderful and thrives more and more. And if you have it the other way around, it just is a deadly spiral. So what we do in those 4 or 5 weeks is really just transforming the milieu.
So what you can do, if someone's listening to this, they can work on different areas of concern that they might have with their health challenges, and they may work on, if they have 3 different things going on, they could work on one for 3 or 4 weeks, knowing that the protocol is going to help the entire body, but they can work on one thing for the 5-week protocol, and then they can start another 5-week protocol after working on item number 2, for example. Is that right?
You speak about something that I was just contemplating the last few days, because the protocol for all treatments is very, very similar. It just has, the external bagging is not necessary if you have the no open wounds, but it is something that will help. There is people as a beauty treatment for females to go into ozone bags. They go full body ozone bag and oxygenate the body instead of hyperbaric oxygen, and it kills off thrush, it kills off skin lesions, so it's a beauty treatment as well. But the general protocol is almost the same for all diseases. So it's not really relevant through which door you come to ozone. It will always work in the same way. And that's why my main concern is, how do I reach the different people? And that's why we build different education programs for each of the categories. So if you look for infertility and pregnancy preparation, then you'll find it, because you won't look for ozone because you don't know ozone helps. But the end result is pretty much all the same. You'll have the same effect, except rectal for female, you use vaginal, but otherwise it's almost the same.
Do we know, does this have an effect on a lot of our listeners are women? And as you know, many women, especially these days, have fibroids and fibritic conditions. Do you know if this has an effect on fibroids?
Yes, fibrotic cyst disease, everything. It kills off, you use it like with that was one of the variations. You use it in the very first stage in a higher concentration to seal off.
Okay.
And then you go into the mainstream protocol. But yes, that's exactly what it's used for. I just had an interview with Dr. Cheryl Seelman about ozone, because she uses it since many years as one of the treatment packages for STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, for all sorts of bacteria. And during the menopause, the vaginal dryness and all of that is completely revamped, reactivated, because ozone repairs the mucous membrane of the body, the mucus-associated tissue, and therefore all systems start to work a lot better. And fibric cyst disease, anything. When you start using it with your gut or vaginal, it starts to heal your tonsils because they are connected. Your spleen, all of that is that mold system, mucus-associated lymphatic tissue, and that starts to repair and starts to thrive. And that's why it's It's interesting because
this is such a widespread, it affects the body in a general way. And so I was thinking when you were talking earlier about how this breaks down plastics and estrogens and xenoestrogens, and I was just thinking right now, what is the effect of ozone on things like your hormonal systems or things like that? But if it's affecting, if it's breaking down plastics and xenoestrogens, we know that xenoestrogens play a huge role in the estrogen dominant nature of men and women these days. So it's ozone indirectly is probably going to help with people's hormonal levels too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Absolutely. Cheryl explained it really well, and I'm publishing that interview pretty soon. I wouldn't be able to put that in words. Hormones has always been my weakest subject. I find it very challenging.
Yeah, they're so complex, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would imagine that...
so she was very good in explaining that, and we have it in our education program. So when people sign up for ozone in any form, in any of the programs on our site, they will get that interview as well, because it just clarifies so many issues in regards to hormones and hormone replacements and what it actually does. It is very, very powerful.
Wow. So what effect can ozone have on animals? I'm sure people use ozone on their pups and things, right?
Yeah, in the same way, identically the same way. It's mainly used in the animal world. There's studies with cows with fertility. That's where it came from. They actually use ozone to activate fertility in cows.
Oh, wow.
Pretty standard.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing.
That's where the research came from. And then they thought, okay, if it works for cows, we might have a chance to make that work for humans as well.
Wow.
And I've just interviewed Dr. Gonzalez in South America in Brazil, and she was talking about the fertility in the clinic going up. They use it even when they have implanted fertility. They use it to prepare the body so that when the egg is implanted, that it's actually not rejected. And their success rates have tripled since they do it that way.
Golly, that's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. I mean, you think about all the different ways you can use ozone. And so I'm curious about everything you have going on at Truly Heal. If someone, if they want to learn more about ozone, for example, do you have a program or a membership area people can access? How do they want, if they want to learn more? I see on your website here, it says O3 Ozone free training.
Yeah, that's already the best start. And I've just sent you here on Skype a link as well, which is for diabetic neuropathy.
Oh, cool.
There is plenty of ways to go in. Once you signed up to any of our ozone funnels, like whether you come through infertility or cancer or wound healing or diabetic neuropathy, you're always in the whole funnel to learn about your whole application for every single body. You get, I think the second or third email that you get is a selection where you can select what your main problems are. If you have leaky gut, then go into this education program. If you have open wounds, go into this education program. So it guides you through, and then you can use it for other family members for a different protocol, but you'll get the whole lot.
That is cool. I just clicked on your ozone area, and it says learn why and how ozone works, the 5 most ozone responsive diseases, how to set up ozone equipment, and how doctors use ozone differently. So, wow. So is that looks like that's a film that you created?
Yeah, it's interviews with different practitioners, and the whole concept put together. In the beginning, I always took the whole interview with someone and presented it. What I do now, I cut different pieces together that really reflect all to one subject, and then I present that as a little mini recording or mini movie, showcasing the process, showcasing how you make the water, how you use it, what the official protocols are. So you learn a lot more in detail, and it's not overwhelming or confusing.
That's great. That's great. So when someone starts making ozone a part of their daily life, you're saying it's probably going to be 5 minutes in the morning and that's about it?
Yeah, well, the treatment, I do it every morning, 5 days a week. I'm on a leaky gut healing program. I did my biopsy and my colonoscopy and my stool test beforehand. I'm documenting everything.
Oh, cool.
I had very severe issues with bacteria overgrowth, and I have Helicobacter pylori and Klebsiella. So I document every single step. I'm now in the 2nd week. A long time ago, when people said the doctor, and I ask all doctors, do you do the treatments themselves? And there is some that say, yes, certainly, every day. And others, no, I haven't tried it yet. And I thought, well, that's really awkward. I can't sell something if I don't know myself or don't try it myself. So we picked the whole family, and everybody was fixing their prime condition that they started with. And now we're going through the whole protocol, and we're documenting the whole thing into a little movie.
Oh, that's great. Now, have you got your wife and kids doing it?
Yeah, certainly. My daughter is she was diagnosed as a little child with diabetes 1.
Oh, wow.
So she's doing it, and she already reduces her insulin intake quite dramatically. So there is all sorts of different things. My wife doesn't have any health issues. She does it for general well-being.
Oh, wow. That's great. Wow. So fascinating. So many different areas of your health that ozone can fix. And it says here, treat viral, bacterial, fungal, and mold infections. Speaking of mold infections, I've heard people using ozone... What are they? Ozone generators that they can use to bring or take mold out of their walls in their homes. It's so powerful.
It's one of those fake advertisements that certainly isn't good, and there is already a lot of controversy about the subject. And I don't recommend it, because ozone is only toxic in one single form, and that's when you breathe it in high concentrations. Now, if you put a little device like that into your closet, instead of air ventilation to dry out or to prevent mold, then that's an option. But as soon as you breathe in ozone, it's unhealthy. And that's why the concentration that you would need to actually kill off the mold and reduce the load is quite high. So it's a little bit on the edge. It's a little bit controversial about that subject. It's certainly not dangerous. You only get a little bit of a cough and a little bit of inflammation into your lungs. But I would always use in that concern rather there is different essential oils that you can use that prevent that. And let's face it, open up window or put a ventilation in and it will be 10 times more effective and a lot less toxic.
Yeah, it's this guy that I was listening to who does that. I think he does it. His house is prone to mold, he said, and then he does it, I think, once every couple months and for a few hours, and he opens up all the windows and then he leaves the house. Okay,
perfect.
He leaves the house all day long.
If you do it like that, you have high concentration ozone. There's plenty of devices, even on Amazon, that convert standard air into ozone. And you blow that into the room. You have the room sealed off. It's killing all the bugs, all the mold, all the pathogens. And then afterwards you open up and release it back into the air. That's fine. That's great. Just not general sitting in it and breathing it.
Yeah, this guy had a whole protocol, but he was saying is really powerful for pulling mold out of his house. He had this whole thing that he, protocol that he followed, similar to what you just said. But golly, what a cool substance. So, if people want to purchase all the physical materials, it's you said it was $900, under $1,000, right?
$990, including everything, including shipping, international shipping worldwide with express
and tax, and then everything else, and then it comes with all the training material and everything someone would need.
Nothing's missing. Extra hoses, extra filters, extra blockages, one-way control filters. It's like the full package, and it's totally detailed, explained how you use the whole equipment for each individual treatment. We've done videos on that, so you have a checklist that you don't miss out on anything. It's really practical, easy, and like I said, I have 80-year-old, 90-year-old people that use it now daily, and they love it. So there is no problem in using it. It's very simple, and it's all inclusive.
Well, that's what's so cool. I like what you're doing because you're sort of making it really easy for people. I know for me, I've heard so many people talk, not just on my show, but I constantly listen to other podcasts, and I get ideas and learn about guests and listen to people talk about things. And, oftentimes the subject of ozone will come up and it just sounds so complex. It sounds so complicated. Where do I start? Where do I, what do I do? How often? Are there protocols? But people just, it's funny, they talk about it and they talk about it in a way where it's really simple and easy, but they don't share any details. And so you're kind of left as a listener thinking, okay, well, how do I do everything that this guest just talked about? But what you're doing is you're selling the information as well as the actual ozone machine itself, and then walking people through a protocol, right?
Yeah, I guess most people are anxious to do that because it's actually, borderline. Telling people what to do can bite me in my butt.
Right.
And that's why when you listen to my videos, I always refer to studies. I refer to how clinics do it, how doctors do it. Because I don't want to tell them, and it's always saying on the bottom of the page, check with your doctor. And if you don't have a doctor that uses ozone, go to another one who does. But it's a borderline pathway, and some people are scared of doing that. But it's really important. I believe if we don't become self-reliant in health, medicine is extremely expensive. And going to a doctor 5 weeks, 3 times a week for autohemotherapy ends up into a fortune. And if you need to repeat that regularly to keep your pathogenic load down, it's just something that is so much wiser to do on your own. And let's face it, most patients that we have, and this was the trigger, they run on a budget. If they go for $30,000 in a clinic, then that's probably all their savings, and then they come home and they need to continue everything, or they need to go back to the clinic, and that's when it breaks the camel's back. When you set up a little bit of a healing environment, and that just is a bit of learning in the first stage, but I call it the healing environment. It's a stress-free zone. It's an area where I can do some detox, whether that's a sauna or hypothermia dome, and I can have some ozone to boost my immune system, and then I change a little bit on my diet step by step and grow slowly into a new lifestyle. Then that's something everybody can do, and they can make a hell of a change with that without investing their whole life.
Yeah, I think that's so great. Puts power back in the hands of people. One final question I wanted to ask you. I have a friend who has been, her body's had rheumatoid arthritis for about 4 or 5 years now, and she's tried everything. She's tried hyperbaric oxygen chambers, water fasting. She's gone to a bunch of different clinics. She's done, she hasn't tried everything because there's on planet Earth, there's so many things, but she's tried a lot of things. What are your results, or what have you heard with ozone and its effect on rheumatoid arthritis?
Well, it depends. Rheumatoid arthritis is never an occurrence that is only in the joints. It's always based on food sensitivities, allergies. It's a trigger, and that can be anything. I've learned not to judge anymore. It can be tomatoes that cause that reaction. So let's be careful in that concern. But there is always a trigger, and it's always a reason for that to happen. And in many cases, they use ozone to inject the ozone directly into the joint. You've probably heard about the treatment. It's very popular, and it gains more and more and more results. There is actually so many studies popping up that it's killing off the viral or bacterial load in the joints. It helps to lubricate. It repairs that tissue and the membranes, and through that it helps with arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, with any kind of joint pain. That's one way to check it out. That's a very affordable, very easy treatment. A lot of chiropractors start doing that now. We sell a lot of devices to chiropractors because for them it's a very simple, you need only low concentration, and they use the device and they do that. And that's something that will definitely be a solution. The other solution is always leaky gut. We had a yogi to visit us. I'm a lot into meditation, and we had Om Gurudev, which is a yogi from India, come, and he was sitting, unfortunately not in normal sessions of an hour or two. He did 4 or 5 hour meditations.
Oh my gosh.
And after a week or so with that special Indian diet, lots of carbs, I couldn't sit anymore. My knees hurt, my back hurt, and my elbows and everything started to cramp up during the meditation. And that's where ozone is extremely helpful, especially if you don't have that movement of the body, the oxygenation. It just converts that straight away and helps you with breaking down all of those pathogens in your joints.
Wow. So interesting. Golly. Wow. So you've been really into ozone in the last few weeks. You've just been really, or probably longer than that, but you've been really putting out a bunch of YouTube videos about it and just diving deep, it looks like.
Yeah, I've studied it long. Like when we started to look to create that ozone generator, it was like that big learning curve. I went to several companies and looked what they do. Then I had an appointment with Dr. Fiban Hensler in Germany. She's very, very famous. She actually publishes more up-to-date research studies on the subject. And I went to her. They produce oil as well, but they use a petroleum oil, so I didn't want to use that.
Oh, wow.
So I learned and learned and learned. And it's always nice when you do all those interviews with all of those top leading experts. It's like from everywhere you get an added bonus, an added benefit. And then we learned with application. I had 50 devices, and we gave them out to clients, and I wanted their feedback and return feedback and really give me what changes, what happens. And that then opened up a whole can of worms, which I then discussed again with all the doctors. So it's the learning curve, like I said, is unfortunately not fast. And that's why what we give out now is pre-digested in many different forms. And it allows you to really get to the essence without stumbling through that hoop of misinformation, which is out there too.
Gosh, I love what you're doing, Marcus. I think it's awesome. I think that there's a lot of general information out there on the internet that's great, but what's really cool about the stuff that you're doing is that you're teaching people how to take their health in their own hands. You're teaching people how to really, really prevent any sort of issues, catastrophic health issues in their life. And that's one of the things is I don't know if there's a lot of people out there doing the kind of work you're doing in terms of educating people on, this high level stuff. Like for a while back, we had, what is the guy's name? No, he's not a doctor. Ed McCabe, who wrote the book, Flood Your Body with Oxygen. And that book is huge. I mean, it's so thick, it's so big, and it's so overwhelming and daunting. But when someone comes into your stuff, it's like, it seems like it's really, really easy to digest and makes it kind of fun, and you can learn how to, apply all this stuff to your life.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. It's my passion to get to the essence. Like the very first subject that I always say is, if it's not common sense, it can't be true. It can't work. Or if it's too complex, you only cover what you don't know. Right. With difficult words. My real passion is to get to that root essence. And when you understand it, there is no more myth. There is no more talk about cure and stuff, because we don't cure a disease. We remove the cause, and then our body, if it's supported well enough, does the healing. And that's, for me, that was like, I really have to say thank you to Dr. Rao, because that was my big wake up. And since then, we have tripled the results. And it's the same for hypothermia. It's the same for PMF. Get to the essence, look what it does, and analyze it properly, then test it out and do all the tests and check, and then you know what it does. And that's what I love doing. That's
so cool. One final question, because I know we're well over time here. Can someone who does regular coffee enemas do this on the same day, or is there any conflict that you know about with coffee enemas and doing something like ozone therapy?
To the contrary, that's actually recommended. I said before, you go in the morning to toilet and you empty your bowel, and then you do ozone, which is, the most effective way, because it reacts with bacteria. Now, in your colon, if you have stool, 80% responds or reacts with the stool instead of with your gut lining and with the mucous membrane. So in all the clinics, when they do severe diseased cases, they either do a flush, just water, warm water to flush out and to clean out, or they do coffee enema. And if you look at the research, there is so overwhelming research on coffee enema, how beneficial and helpful. So doing a coffee enema before you do your rectal insufflation is by far the dream combination. And because you already have a clean colon, it's so easy. Plug up that little hose and squeeze in a small amount of ozone, and it's all clean and it's absorbed straight away into the mucous membrane. It repairs leaky gut in half the time than if you wouldn't do that. So definitely the best solution combined.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I had to ask you that because a lot of our listeners are big into the coffee enema. So that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it has almost as many research studies, coffee enema, and great results. Just in that slideshow that I got from Dr. Emilia, we had so many references, unfortunately most of them in Spanish or in Portuguese, so I always run them through Google Translate, and they might come out slightly different, but in general you get the gist. But yeah, it's powerful if you combine the two.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So Marcus, what other areas of interest are you exploring these days? Do you have anything coming out, things or projects you're working on and things like that?
Well, the Ozone Summit will be the next thing because we're editing, we're cutting, we're putting everything together, so it really makes sense. Again, when you look at most of the summits that you see, whether it's a cancer summit or any, it's always a lot of information, and in the end, patients or clients are completely overwhelmed, confused. Is it working? Is it not? One person says gluten-free, the other one says not. The other one says dairy is good, the other one says it's not. Right. And what I really try to get is to understand why dairy is so dangerous to us and how many people actually have enzymes as an adult to break down the lactase. There is not many. And those who can, for them, it's actually not bad to drink milk, but the majority doesn't have that enzyme. So it's like not just putting out one general rule and say it's good or it's bad, but understanding why and what it does. And if you have inflammation in your gut, you have leaky gut, and you then add, I always say, compare it with the anemones in the ocean. You know, you have Nemo, the bacteria, swimming in the anemone, and now you have veggies, you have meat, you have fish, you have all sorts of things coming down the reef, and they enjoy, they eat it, digest it, and they feed the anemone. Now think about, there is cheese macaroni coming down that reef. It clogs up the anemone, it sticks everything together, and the bacteria in there die. They start to seriously create inflammation. They clog everything up. And it's not the lactase itself, it's more like that digestive slosh that then blocks your whole system from breathing, from taking up oxygen, which is so bad. So we're breaking everything down into a very deep detail so that when you know this is what it is, and now you can make an informed decision.
That's awesome. And when does that summit, when is that going to be going live?
Next year, March, I think, is the release date, because we have 12 or 14 interviews and slides and everything to edit. And, you know, there's always like a whole range of things to put together, and we're working on that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Wow, you're into some cool stuff. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. And I have a nice studio here, so we do all the treatments. We test them out. The whole staff is on protocol.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you do everything from home? Is your studio at home, or do you have places where you go to film all this stuff?
Well, we go places to film, but my editing studio and the movie studio is here in the house.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so great. Wow, and currently you're down in Melbourne, is that right?
No, Sunshine Coast, north of Brisbane.
Oh, okay.
That's where people go on holiday. That's where I live.
Oh, whereabouts? Because I'm half Australian and I've spent a lot of time there.
Ah, wow. You have to come and visit.
I know. Whereabouts are you?
Noosa.
Oh my gosh, you're in Noosa?
Yep.
Oh, what a place that is. I love Noosa.
Yeah, it is.
Very beautiful. Wow, coming into summer, great time of year.
Yeah, oh, it is. It's certainly a nice place to be at. And it's with internet today, the whole world is open. You can do so many things. It just allows you to live wherever you can.
Oh, that is great. Next time we're in Noosa, we may have to stop by and,
definitely
grab a drink. Wow. Well, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you going a half hour over with us. I think our listeners are going to just really be appreciative of that. Thanks for your time today.
Oh, thank you for your passion and sharing all that information with your listeners, because that's so important that we get the information out.
Oh, so true. Hang on the line there really quickly, Marcus. I'm just going to close out the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. We really, really just appreciate you guys listening and sharing our shows and all of that. What a great blessing it is to have the internet these days and to be able to be all around the world. Marcus is in Noosa, Australia. I'm in Southern California, and you may be in some other country, and we can all get access and create this great community of people that are just really into their health. So thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. I will be back at the end of the show to do a little recap and let you guys know about more stuff that's going on that Marcus is doing. So if you like this show and you want to check out the show on the actual website itself, you can do that at extremehealthradio.com/490. This is episode 490. So if you type in 490 at the end of our website, you'll get to this particular show page on the website, and there'll be some links there for you to check out. So we appreciate you guys so much, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode, and stay tuned for the recap after this.
Historically, Fresh Liquid Whey's therapeutic success boasts an impressive track record helping people with liver insufficiency, hepatitis, gallstones, kidney infections, kidney stones, edema, intestinal fermentation, flatulence, constipation, indigestion, bloating, arthritis, gout, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Whey is also very effective against excess weight, acne, eczema, and for improving general health and well-being. Whey protein powders typically fail to produce these historically impressive results. We believe this is due to the poor diet of the cows and the way it is processed into a powder. One World Whey is the exception. The cows are grass-fed, and the whey is uniquely processed to preserve the protein and amino acids in their correct shapes. One World Whey is also encoded with frequencies that we believe awakens your cells to produce optimal levels of glutathione, protein, and energy. Click on the One World Whey banner ad right here at extremehealthradio.com. That's extremehealthradio.com.
You know what I love about shows like this and information like this? It's so cool to me. I love it so much. When you hear someone like this talking about all of the benefits of ozone and what ozone can do for you, it's just, I don't know, maybe you guys are different or I don't know, but it makes you really feel like nothing can take you down. It makes you feel like you are extremely powerful, and it makes you feel like you can overcome any disease. You just hear this kind of stuff, and I don't know, there's just something very empowering about it. And even if it's not true, let's say it just weren't true at all, it still makes you feel that way. And the feeling of feeling invincible and having invincible health and a robust, powerful state of health is just, that feeling is just amazing. And I think there's something to do with just feeling that way versus, feeling disempowered. So many times in today's world, we hear disempowering information. I was just on, I got a notification on Facebook from Erin over at Health Nut News, and she was talking about how the CDC is going to be, the head of the CDC was going to be doing some sort of live interview with the head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I don't know if you guys know about that and all the nefarious, crazy things they're up to. But and so anyway, she was saying that they're going to be live at 2:50 or 2:30 or whatever time it was. And so I went on there and I was just listening to it. Made a couple comments here and there. But I was just listening to it, and the talk, the rhetoric, the propaganda, the lies, all of the stuff was just, it was being spewed forth like it was it was ultimate truth. And they're talking about the Zika virus and, all of this stuff that they're trying to do to, like they're claiming that they're trying to help all these people. And it was just, we're going to have a global pandemic, and the Zika virus, this and the flu and the measles and all of this stuff. And it just was like, oh my gosh. If you believe that stuff, if you watch regular news and you believe this stuff, I mean, whether or not the truth behind it is there or not, just by believing what they're talking about and what you hear in the mainstream media is just, it's so disempowering. It makes you feel like, you're at the whim of some bacteria or some germ or some disease or some virus that you're going to catch from some random door handle that is going to kill you, and I don't know. I don't like thinking like that. I like thinking that we are powerful beings created in the image of God, and we have ultimate power, and our immune system is there to protect us and to give us invincible health, and we can overcome anything. And when I hear guys like Marcus today talking about ozone and what its power is, I just feel like, wow, imagine if we had this type of information in schools. Imagine if you heard this type of information from mainstream media. Imagine if, they propagated this empowering information. Could you imagine? Could you imagine how different the world would be? Everyone would have their own ozone generators at home. They would be, taking care of their health at home. And whenever anything comes up, like a staph virus or any kind of, ailment, they'd just be able to, become their own doctor and look at that and go, oh, okay, that's this protocol. I used that same protocol last time to get rid of our son Jimmy's throat infection or whatever, and they could be completely empowered, self-empowered. Man, what a different world that would be. That would just be such a different world. I mean, it's interesting to think about, but when you start thinking about in detail how many industries and how many different ways of life, areas of your life that would affect, I mean, it would just radically affect if everyone could take care of their own health and never get sick, using something like these ozone machines that Marcus was talking about. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I think that that's what you and I are listening for empowering, self-empowering information like this so that we can take our own health in our own hands and start really taking care of our own selves and not running off to a doctor every time something happens, and not, there's a place for that if you need it. But my gosh, there's so much we can do on our own. And I just think that a guy like Marcus is really cool. I like what he's doing because, like I said during the show, it's so confusing. You hear people talking about ozone and you think, oh my gosh, like, do I have to buy a big tank? Where do I buy the oxygen from? How do I know the oxygen's pure? What grade? Do I get the medical grade oxygen, or is the regular oxygen okay? And then there's debates about that, and then you got to make sure it's clean, and how often do you get it, and how long does it take, and how long does it take to go through a daily protocol, and are there different protocols for different conditions, and how do you know when you need to buy more oxygen, and all this stuff. It's cool when you talk to someone like Marcus and he just gives you the full, everything you need to know, almost turnkey. And he's kind enough. He wanted to let me know after the show. He set up a coupon code for Extreme Health Radio listeners, which I thought was really cool. Let me see if I can get it here from his email. Let's see. The coupon code is EHR, capitals, EHR, and it's $110 off the ozonated olive oil, which is organic, and it's 4 times the concentration of ozone. And apparently, according to Marcus, when you buy ozonated olive oil, if it dips below 30 degrees, let's see, Celsius. So what's the conversion on that? I think it's double it, subtract 10%, and add 32. So let's see, double it, 60 minus 10% minus 6, that's 54 plus 32. That's about 85, 86 degrees. So when he says, so apparently, let's see here, it stays solid at 30 degrees. So that's the whole deal. I guess if it doesn't stay solid, you start off-gassing or out-gassing the ozone, and then it becomes way less potent. So he's giving away, I think, if you go to, let's see, extremehealthradio.com/490, and then we will link off to him. And if you use the code EHR, you'll get $110 off the ozonated olive oil, organic. So thanks, Marcus, for for giving that bonus or that offer to our listeners. That's really cool. Yeah. So I just pulled up a couple things about, let's see here. I'm going to pull that up. The benefits of ozone therapy: strengthens the immune system, kills bacteria and viruses on contact, increases oxygenation level of your cells, it detoxifies the body, reduces inflammation, been known to help the body get rid of HIV, can affect cancer cells. Ozone can affect cancer cells. So read between the lines on that one. We'll just say affect cancer cells. We won't make any claims here. Can't make claims. Can't say that ozone does anything other than go into the body. I have to future-proof our language. I'll tell you about that in a second. It's anti-aging. It increases energy. It reduces acidity. And some of the conditions affected by ozone, we won't say it cures anything or does anything to anything. We'll just say they're affected by ozone. And so that is cancer. Let's see, meniscal tears, joints and tendon disorders, shingles, herpes simplex, herniated discs, diabetic ulcers, and venous stasis, I think that says. Allergies and chronic sinusitis, Lyme disease, Alzheimer's, senile dementia, arthritis, autoimmune disease, colitis and Crohn's, tinnitus, vaginal infections, chronic hepatitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, candida, yeast infection, and probably hundreds more as well. So we're going to future-proof our language and say that the ozone affects these things, but we don't know how, if it's good or bad. I have to just say that because I don't want the powers that were to come after us in the future. So we're not making any claims here. And obviously check with your medical doctor, because medical doctors are the only people that can cure the body. They are the only ones that can cure diseases. Medical doctors, right? So make sure to go check with your medical doctor and ask them about ozone and if that's something that you should do. I can't believe I have to say those things. I cannot believe that I have to. I sound like a pharmaceutical commercial. You know, now I should start reading all of the. Side effects of ozone, and isn't it amazing? Those pharmaceutical companies, they can just rattle off all of their side effects, and those side effects include, death and all kinds of insane other cancers, and still they're able to sell these things like hotcakes. You know what it is? Here's what I think it is. I think the way they do is after they read all the side effects of these particular drugs that they're selling you on TV, which shouldn't even be legal, but what they do is they tell you to go talk to your doctor. And the doctor calms your fears and tells you all of the upsides of all these amazing benefits of taking their drugs. And the doctor is now the gatekeeper for mitigating anything that you think might be wrong with taking a medication. So they're going to, man, this culture, this system is crazy. I don't know if you guys know, but I was talking to a lady recently talking about future-proofing language. I was talking with a lady recently who, I'm not at liberty to give her name or anything like that, because it's very sensitive what we were talking about. But she works for, or she's a contractor for, they had to set it up this way because of our good old FDA. But she's a contractor for a company that sells devices that are like magnetic pulsars. You heard these things, like different, Dr. Bob Beck was one of the foremost pioneers in talking about the magnetic pulsars technology and how that affects the body. And in any event, she was saying, this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. So the company that she works for, sells, or she doesn't work for, she's contract. So she's a contracted worker for these people. She doesn't work directly for the company. But the company told her that people that bought her device, or not her device, people that bought the company's device would make claims. And they would say, your device helped to cure my cancer, or something like that. And they would make that claim as how you can go onto someone's Facebook page and make a comment there in public. And she was telling me that if the company itself clicked like on that comment, all of a sudden that comment became a medical claim. And because it became a medical claim, they would become investigated by the FDA. Now, this lady seemed to be pretty, she was telling me this in private on the phone. This wasn't a recorded conversation. And she doesn't work directly for the company at all. So there was no reason why she would need to exaggerate the truth. But isn't that crazy that we've gotten to a place in our culture where if a company simply clicks the word like on a claim that's made by a customer in public, that company now takes on the responsibility of having made that claim just by clicking the word like. So you can see here how it's getting to the point now where we can't make any claims at all, because what she was telling me was that the FDA and the government is now taking drastic measures to monopolize language, and they've been doing this since the beginning of time, and to patent words and to trademark words and phrases and things like these. And this is no new thing. I mean, they've been doing this for years, but now they're getting to the point where they're getting very good at it. So they're just taking over language, and anytime someone uses language that might be making a claim, then they can just effectively shut them down, which is amazing. So it's getting to the point where we don't even sell these things on our site, because if you guys know anything about our store is just an affiliate store, right? We don't sell the products themselves. We connect up with conscious companies that are doing great things, and we stand behind their products, and and then we let them know, or let you guys know about these things. And if you choose to buy, then sometimes we'll get a commission, sometimes we won't. But in any event, it's getting to the point where everything we say and do is being, I think, monitored. And I mean, that's why they're building these huge data centers. Have you seen the data centers out in Nevada that are these data centers that are just buildings and buildings and buildings long? Massive, huge, just sprawling buildings going off forever. And these are all database or data centers, apparently, that are recording, I don't know what they're doing, recording people's conversation, storing it, and then what they're going to start doing is figuring out a way to access that information easily. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to make any claims of anything, but what I am going to do is I am going to, make sure that people know what's out there. You got to let people know what's out there, and people have to take a risk. A lot of people, what they're doing now, private people, are just doing YouTube videos and product reviews, and they're able to claim anything they want because they're not selling the products. They're not even affiliated to the companies that produce the products. They don't have any involvement in any way with the product. So this is what's cool. So if you have a product that has helped you, that we've sold you, or we haven't sold you, but we've directed you to, or if you've bought from somebody else, if you have a product that has helped your health in some positive way, I would encourage you to do a review video about the product and tell people how it's helped you. As long as you're not set up as a business, and as long as you're not selling the product, and as long as you're just talking freely and openly about the product with no financial tie at all whatsoever with any company. If you're just a listener to the show or any other shows and you have things that have helped you, I would highly encourage you to make a YouTube video and talk about it. Because as far as I know, they haven't been able to shut people down for free speech yet. Now they can shut people down for selling products and making claims. And now they're trying to get in and make it more and more difficult for people to make any claims. But if there are no people doing product reviews like that, because after I spoke with this lady, I thought, man, they have a private, the company that I was referring to has a private, not Facebook group, but a private community that you can become a member of. But even still, they still can't make any claims. So they can just say that this is a magnetic pulsar, but you got to go and get the protocols from somebody else. You have to go get all the information about what it can do from somebody else. Man, oh man, I tell you what, this world that we live in is so crazy and so bizarre. I cannot, people say, well, the government's doing this so that they can protect people from, fraudulent, people making claims. But you know what? Here's my take on that. Why don't we all treat each other like adults? But see, that's not really why they're doing it. That's just what they say they're doing. That's not why they're doing it. They don't care if people are making fraudulent claims. They really don't. What they care about is the bottom line. And they're essentially the watchdog and the police force for major companies and pharmaceutical industries. So they have to. So when the pharmaceutical companies and the medical industry has behind them the power of enforcement of the government through law, then you got real problems, because until you can decouple those two, the relationship between those two entities, you're never going to have a free society. You're never going to have a society where there's free speech and you have real news and anything like that. You're just not going to happen. It's not going to happen because you have essentially the government being the watchdog for pharmaceutical companies. And so that's what we are. We live in a plutocracy, which is a society ruled by money. And it doesn't matter how you vote. This is just the way it is. Money rules. And so until you can decouple those two things, you're never going to live in a free society. So so they're really cracking down. They don't care that people are making fraudulent claims. They don't care if people die because of fraudulent claims. They care that the bottom line of the pharmaceutical industry, their pocketbooks aren't affected. So they say that they're trying to protect you, but they're not. That's not really what it's about. It's just about money. Just all it is contract. It's money. And so, but the way I look at it is, if that weren't the case, if it really were true that they're trying to protect us, why don't we just all treat each other like adults but they don't see us as adults. They see us as people that are unable to govern themselves. And we've given them every reason to think that of ourselves, actually. But in any event, if we all treated each other like adults, so you have some guys making exorbitant claims. We have the internet now. We can just look at what this guy's claiming, go online, and do mountains of research, reading pro and con about this guy's claims, and then we can take full responsibility for purchasing a product that doesn't help us or does help us, and then we live in a more spiritual way because we ultimately take full responsibility of everything that comes into our life and everything that happens that we think happens to us. In essence, we draw everything in. We download everything, I think. We download experiences, we download information, we download thoughts, we download our opinions, our feelings, we download our blueprint of our personal growth. I think we download all of this stuff from some morphogenic field or from some ether and some alternate reality. I don't know, but I think that we download our experience here on Earth. And if we all understood that to be true, then that would mean that we're all ultimately completely responsible for how our lives turn out, for the products we buy that don't work, for the products we buy that do work, for what happens as a result of these products. And we don't need a big brother to come and tell us and try to protect us from every potential, person making a claim, So, I don't know. It's obviously it's a very, very deep subject, but I would encourage you guys, if you have products, and you don't have any financial ties to any of these companies, do reviews and talk about what they've done. Talk about how they've helped you, because the companies more and more are becoming unable to speak and say anything. And so when someone searches online for like an ozone and the benefits of ozone, if no one was out there talking about ozone and unafraid to talk about it, you would get all kinds of videos talking about all the benefits of ozone and how it's affected their life and all these cool things. But you'd never find a video from the company that produces the product that delivers that ozone to you, because they can't. And so really it comes down to a grassroots effort of people willing to stick their neck out and talk about their experience with the product. And I encourage you guys, if it's a good experience or a bad experience, I encourage you guys to just put all that stuff out there, because the more information there is out there about these protocols and products and things like that, the more empowered we're all going to be. And so that's sort of what we're about, is just letting you guys know these things exist. So I just think that it's really important for us to, for the people that sell or the people that, are affiliated or have the, like we did, we had Marcus on the show. For the people that do interviews, I'm just choosing, I could probably make claims and, but I'm just choosing to be above board about all these things. But what we can do is gather an army of people, of everybody else who can make claims or can talk about their own experience and just talk about these things. If it's not a YouTube video, do like a blog post, or do something like that. Do maybe an audio and put it on YouTube as just a still picture, things like that, because that will help people. That will help people understand what these products can do, because otherwise, if it weren't for people talking like that, we would never know what these things do. So in any event, I hope you guys enjoyed that show, and I want to thank Marcus for allowing us to, or setting up that coupon code for you guys. That was really cool and nice of him. So thanks, Marcus. I think let's see, the coupon code is EHR. Is that right? Let me make sure. Yep, EHR, all capitals. And if you go to extremehealthradio.com/490, you can check out the links to, I'll put links to the Ozone section. How about that? I'll do the Ozone section for that. It'll take you right to his Ozone page. That way you can be directed directly to that area of his website where he talks about the ozone. But I think that's so cool, man. Oh, I think it's so cool. What if we taught everyone, like I said before, in school, how to take care of themselves, how to prevent disease, how to set goals, how to manage money, how to grow food, how to not be tied to the system, how to think for themselves, how to start their own business, how to manage money, how to invest, how to be a better person. What if we taught all these skills in school? How to be a survivalist, how to defend yourself. I mean, could you imagine schools like that taught you all these courses on life, how to let go of things, how not to get involved in other people's drama. That would be so cool, man. If we had all these kids learning all this stuff and, you know, getting out, gosh, I just think how amazing society would be. But, you know, maybe we're moving in that direction, and it's my hope, and it's my thinking that we are. I think we are all waking up, and so it's just cool. It's cool to see. All right, I've rambled on long enough. This again was Marcus. His last name's hard to pronounce. Like Freud, and then Enmann. Freudenmann. Marcus Freudenmann. It's hard to say his last name, but we're going to hopefully have him in studio one of these days. He's going to be out here in the United States, I think, at the end of February. Gosh, that would be 2017? Yeah, in February 2017. And he's going to be motoring on through. He said he's going to be flying into Texas, doing some events there in Texas, and then he's going to fly to Florida, he said. I can't remember if he said this on the air or off the air, but he's going to be flying into Florida. And then in Florida, he's going to be taking an RV all the way from Florida to San Diego, which is interesting. I took a train trip around the United States in 2000, right after 9/11. Actually, let's see, that was September. Right before 9/11, in August of 2001, a month before September 11th. I took a train around the United States, and that is a long way to go. Whew, that was a long way to go, but super fun. Hiked the Grand Canyon, went to Florida, did some really cool things. Got to see the country. That was awesome. But yeah, he's going to be taking his RV from Florida to San Diego. So I assume that he's going to be traveling maybe the southern area of the United States. So if you guys are interested, I don't know how his schedule or how to book something with him, but maybe if you have a wellness center or a chiropractic office or something, or, you know, along the southern area of the United States during the month of, I'd probably guess February of 2017, March of 2017, maybe even January. But if you have an area and you would like him to come speak, contact him through just go to extremehealthradio.com/490 and click through to his website and get his contact information and see if he'll come speak. Maybe he's already booked up, though. I don't know how that works. But anyway, thank you guys for supporting us. I want to let you guys know, too, we are going to be launching a membership site academy on our website very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. If you're listening into the future, a couple years or 6 months into the future, it will probably already be launched. But we're going to be diving deep into specific areas of how to overcome health conditions and health issues that you guys and people, humans, me too, sometimes come down with. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of protocols, everything I've learned, as well as the experts that we bring in. We're going to be diving deep and coming up with protocols and really doing some cool things in a private membership community where you guys can interact with each other, interact with us, interact with the doctor, and get to some really, really specific, unique ways of taking care of yourself and overcoming specific ailments in a private membership community. So stay tuned for that. If you want access to that, or if you want to learn more about that, just go to extremehealthradio.com/490. It's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be a monthly subscription. We'll probably set it up too where you can purchase for a discounted rate if you buy a year in advance and things like that. But that's going to be something really cool. I'm really excited about that. It's something I've been wanting to do because there's so many in this field. There's so many different protocols for things, and there's so much information that's going out there. Sometimes you just need something that's going to be, a step-by-step tutorial protocol that you follow for a specific ailment. It's very simple, but yet very complex, and you can follow as much of it as you want, and that way you can get support from other people who have done the protocols and their experiences and all kinds of cool stuff through an online membership community. So if that sounds like something that you're into, just go to extremehealthradio.com/490. And under the sponsors for this episode, I'll put a link to the membership community. You can check it out there. Let's see. I want to thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your support on Amazon. Man, you guys are really awesome. And you guys have really just blessed us with purchasing and making your purchases through our Amazon link. I'm not sure if you guys are, if the same amount of people are buying more because it's Christmas, or if a lot more of you guys are purchasing through our Amazon link. But regardless, if you've done that, I want to thank you. We're so grateful and so humbled and so honored, and just it feels good to know that people care about your work enough to be able to think about you before they go make a purchase online. And so we thank you guys for that. If you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. This way you don't have to, a lot of people support us via Patreon or PayPal. They'll set up an automatic payment. We just got a new one today, just before I recorded this. Valerie is now supporting us $10 a month on PayPal. And a lot of people use Patreon to do that as well. And we thank you guys for that. You guys are so kind. It just comes out of your account once a month, and it helps to keep the show free. So you guys are just so cool. Thank you. For those of you who see value in what we're doing and want to support us and help us keep doing the show and help us keep doing the shows for free. So we thank you for that. Really appreciate that. It takes just a couple seconds. If you have if you do it through Patreon and have a Facebook account, it takes you about a minute to set up an account. And then once you do that, it's done forever unless you stop it. So that is just very, very kind of you. And again, thank you for thinking of us before you make any purchases of health-related items online and going to our store and seeing if we offer the item. And if we do, then going through our link, that helps support the show too. So anytime you're going to make a purchase of something healthy, whether it's on Amazon or like a Bellicon or a sauna, anything like that, go through our store and see if we offer it. And then, just click our link, and then we'll get commission, and that will help keep the shows free. So you guys are awesome. Really, really appreciate you and appreciate you being in our life. It's just so great. It's so, so, so great. And we appreciate you so much. And that's about it. We love you, and thanks for sharing our shows with your friends. That also helps. We appreciate that. Thanks for your emails and everything like that. You guys are just awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us know if we can ever help you. We do our best to get back to everybody. It's a challenge sometimes. We're basically a one-man show here, which is me. So I have it's challenging to get back to every email, and produce the shows and record the shows and edit the shows and all of that good stuff. So thanks for your patience on the emails, but we do read each and every one, and we thank you so much for them. It's great to know that we're helping people. So thank you again. We love you, and let us know if we can help, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate